And since we're covering the presidential campaign, the primary campaign among the Democrats in this hour, I thought it might be interesting to continue and maybe conclude the series that I was doing over the last few weeks on campaign announcement videos for presidential candidates and what they tell us about the thinking of the candidate and the people advising them, and perhaps the Democratic political class in general. So without any further ado, let's start with a mid-tier candidate, maybe lower mid-tier, but somebody waiting in the wings, I think, with potential as a VP, certainly. Let's look at Kamala Harris's campaign video now.
I was born in Oakland. My parents met as students at the University of California, where they were active in the civil rights movement. My mother was one of the greatest sources of inspiration in my life. She was a scientist and an activist. I was taught that I had a responsibility to be a part of the fight for justice. And that's what I've done my whole life. Whether fighting for a real tax cut for the middle class and Medicare for all.
Everyone, all, should receive the health care they need regardless of where they live, their income, or their zip code.
Taking on the Wall Street banks for middle-class homeowners, or fighting to fix our broken criminal justice system.
9 out of 10 people who are sitting in jail awaiting trial are sitting there because they can't afford to write the check to get out, and that's just not right.
Holding polluters accountable. Defending the right to marry the person you love.
I declare you spouses for life.
Defending the rights of immigrants and dreamers.
Government should be in the business of keeping families together, not tearing them apart.
Or prosecuting transnational gangs that exploit women and children. It's always been on behalf of the people. We have so much more in common than what separates us. So together, let's build a future in which everyone can see themselves. An America where leaders lead with decency, with leaders who seek truth and speak truth, and always fight on the side of the people. That's my promise, and that's America's promise. We are all in this together, so let's do this together.
Okay, so Eskow reviews Kamala Harris's campaign announcement video. I actually give this a pretty good review. I mean, what this says to me is that Kamala Harris and her team, they are definitely in the mainstream of the establishment Democratic Party. They're not going to be advocating democratic socialism anytime soon. But I actually think that this video struck a really good balance between the personal identity politics, if you want to call it that, and political positions. Now, do I know enough about Kamala Harris to believe that she absolutely is for all these things? I do not. I can't claim to have insight into her personality, but you know, when she shows her family, she shows that her parents were an interracial couple, but she lets us see what and imagine what they might have overcome in order to accomplish what they accomplished. She emphasizes justice. She clearly has Medicare for all in there. Now, do I think that President Kamala Harris would fight unequivocally for Medicare for all? I'm not sure of that, let's say, but she definitely has it in there. She definitely commits to it very early in the video. I think she exaggerates the extent to which she took on the banks as Attorney General. I think there was a lot that was disappointing about her bank mortgage agreement. I think her prosecutorial record is mixed, but I think that overall she's sending a great signal here. And if what she's gunning for is the vice presidency at this point, I have to say it's tactically very shrewd, because it positions her as really being acceptable to every wing of the Democratic Party that's in play right now. Now, Kamala Harris, I think, is kind of on the low end of the second tier right now, but she's not out of it yet, which makes her a VP contender. Plus, she's from California, which, of course, carries with it huge weight. If she can show she has a popularity there in the California primary, she could be a real contender for the number 2 slot. Now, Kirsten Gillibrand has kind of flamed out. A lot of people are blaming that on her quick condemnation of her fellow Democratic Senator Al Franken. But let's look at a little bit of Kirsten Gillibrand's campaign video too right now.
Our anthem calls America the home of the brave. But we don't realize that the lyrics first pose it as a question. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? It asks, will brave win? Well, it hasn't always, and it isn't right now. Brave doesn't pit people against each other. Brave doesn't put money over lives. Brave doesn't spread hate, cloud truth, build a wall.
Children can be separated.
Okay, I'm going to step in right now and say, ring the buzzer, metaphorically speaking, on this one, to say I think I have a little more insight as to why Kirsten Gillibrand can't get traction in the poll. Her slogan is "Brave Wins," which is a content-free, meaning-free, and policy-free statement to me. This business about who, the national anthem begins with a question about a flag during a battle. And she's trying to make that a metaphor for, we don't know if we're going to be brave or not. First of all, I don't really like the visual look of it. Aesthetically, I would have done it differently, but I think you might have preferred it differently too, but chances are you haven't seen it and never will. I just don't think she commits to anything except self-promotion anywhere in this video, and that and how terrible Trump is, which is what, she's saying Trump isn't brave. This is not a winning strategy. It doesn't surprise me she hasn't gotten traction. Apparently she's also alienated the contributor class by taking out Franken. So she's not, I've read articles to that effect, so she's not getting anywhere. And of course, you need the contributor class unless you're a Bernie Sanders and are able to get hundreds of thousands of small donations based on the power of your ideas, but she's not presenting ideas. So, since I mentioned Bernie Sanders, what's Bernie Sanders doing? Well, he's going to talk about that with us in a minute or so. Basically, he's doubling down on the idea that, to use a slogan he's been using lately, no middle ground, that there's no middle ground, you can't compromise, that we really need to fight for a better future. That is the Bernie Sanders message at this point. His speech where he doesn't run away from the term democratic socialism is an example of that. To me, the meta message there is he's not going to operate his politics based on fear of being ahead of the curve, and you shouldn't either. So it's a very interesting tactic that Bernie's taking. We'll talk to him more about that right after this. So